Hello, wrestling fans. Bill Hazelwood, voice of the Carolinas, and the man beside me, the Outlaw Randy Wayne. Randy, I'm glad you agreed to meet me. Gotta be straight honest with you, man. I did an interview with Ken Magnum about your match coming up May the 3rd in Sylva, North Carolina, and really wasn't going to interview you. Okay? Ken had requested, that I interview him and stuff like that, but I'm going to tell you straight up, man, I feel obligated to get in my car, drive a couple of hours, meet you, and let you have some input on this, because I'm going to tell you, man, you guys have had a 20-year relationship, some good, some bad. It's like I told Ken, the word friendship is way, way overused in the wrestling business. If I didn't have any fingers on my hand, I could still count the number of friends I got in the business. I got a lot of acquaintances and stuff. But I'm going to be straight honest with you, man. I reminded Ken that this is just not a ordinary match. It's a cage match, but it's just not an ordinary cage match, which I'll get to in a second. Man, I'm going to tell you, man, Ken Magnum got real personal real quick. I mean, not outing him. I mean, you're going to see the video. There's no doubt about that. So, I mean, I just felt obligated to get in my car and drive 2 hours and talk to you about it and get your input and your thoughts on the cage match May the 3rd in Sylva.
Well, Bill, man, it's kind of like you say. I mean, the word friend in professional wrestling is bastardized, just
right.
Completely overused. And there's been points where I've considered Ken a friend. There's been points where maybe he felt the same way. I don't know. You'd have to ask him on that one. And I'll also tell you that there were points that in my life, where I did Ken dirty. Absolutely.
Okay.
So when you say he went personal, I mean, he's only going to go personal a couple of different directions, and I'm sure one of them involved a pair of boots, if I had to bet. So,
really
if you want to be right down to brass tacks, have I made mistakes? Absolutely. Have I cheated people, lied, stolen? Listen, I have been a complete shit human being in the past. And that's just being real. So, I'm sure this is personal on some level. And, I can understand that, because if I were on the other side of this, I'd feel the exact same way.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you admitted that, because, I talked to him at length, and, he brought up some things I didn't even know. I've been in the business 24 years, known both of you for well over 20. And, the fact is, a couple things I want to remind you of that I reminded him of is, again, cage matches are a dime a dozen in the wrestling business. But when two men such as yourself, because I reminded him of the same thing, and the fans that watch this are going to hear me repeat myself, I think that you and he are at the right place in your career, because I talked to some folks last week. A lot of the young men get in the wrestling business too soon, and they certainly get out too soon. Okay? You and he are about the same age, all about the same age as some of the big superstars of Randy Orton and AJ Styles and stuff. They're coming into their own, to where a lot of younger men are getting out. So, you're in great shape. You can look at this video. Hell, you're 6 inches wider than me and outweigh me by 40 pounds. You're in great shape. And, that's going to be a plus when you step in that cage, because like I told Ken, with this being in Sylva, North Carolina versus South Carolina, there is no sanctioning body there. Because like I reminded him, and I reminded the fans, in South Carolina, we've got the Athletic Commission.
Right.
And a whole bunch of rules we've got to follow, which is fine. One of them being bleeding. Okay? If by accident or intent somebody gets hit with a chair, somebody gets thrown out of the ring, somebody gets rammed into a cage and they start bleeding, in South Carolina, you got to either pin somebody, give them to submit, or it ends up in a double disqualification in 2 minutes. In Sylva, North Carolina, where this match is going to happen May the 3rd, there is no governing body. So I reminded him, and I certainly want to make the point to you, that the intensity of this match is, I think, going to certainly escalate to the next level because of the animosity y'all have between each other at this point in your career, but also if there is blood, nobody's stopping nothing. Okay, because there's no rules there. You know, the boxing authority in North Carolina takes care of cage fighting, tough man, stuff like that. But there is no sanctioning body that covers pro wrestling in the state of North Carolina. So I want to get your thoughts on the mentality of it, and are you ready to go to that level?
You were at Shop with the Cop in October.
100%.
Who made the challenge?
Well, you did.
Who chose the town?
Well, you did.
Who chose the match?
Well, you did.
Ken, it's corny, it's cheesy, it's cliche. But Bill, it's not the violence that sets a man apart. It's how far he's willing to go.
Oh, 100%.
And one of two things is going to happen. When the dust settles, the smoke clears, the bell's rung. I'm either going to be the H2L heavyweight champion, or y'all are going to carry me out on my shield. It's that simple. I'm not coming to play around. You want to hold a 20-year grudge? Fine. Let's just throw these right here till one of us can't throw anymore. I know how much I've still got left in the tank. I'm not hiding behind this all pissed off all the time persona. I'm just myself. I've given up on the putting up this facade of invincibility. I'm not invincible. I've had my ass whipped before. Any man that says he hasn't is lying to you.
Right.
Okay? But I can tell you right now, you're going to know you were in a fight with me May the 3rd. You're not going to walk out of there whole. You're never going to be the same either. I promise.
Well, to that point, I reminded Ken, you know, another life, ex-military, ex-Marine. I've seen in 20 years.
There's no such thing as an ex-Marine.
My apologies.
Once a Marine, always a Marine.
My
You
apologies.
keep saying that shit on the phone, I'm going to correct you one time.
I do apologize.
Thank you.
I've seen in 20 years, either intentionally or unintentionally, in matches with certain opponents, you go to a dark place before. And I think that's because of your military training. And, you know, Ken Magnum is intense. Ken Magnum is in shape. But I think if anybody has an advantage, it's the advantage of being able to kick into that gear that nobody who's never been in the military even comes close to understanding.
It's like I just said. It's not the violence. It's not the match. It's not the blood. It's not the intensity. It's not all that that's going to set us apart. What's going to set us apart is how far we're willing to go. And, you know, listen, I've followed Ken's career. I've been a Ken Magnum fan since the first time I saw him work at High Velocity Wrestling, 2008 or 9
Right.
time frame. Always been a fan. And I will say, as they say, you give the devil his due. The last couple of years, no one in independent wrestling, and I don't just mean in North and South Carolina, I mean no one in independent wrestling today is on the level he's on right now. Physically, mentally, intensity, skill, nobody's on his level anywhere. So if I'm going to test myself and I'm going to make a challenge like I made back in October, why wouldn't I go slap the biggest dog in the yard?
Makes perfect sense. You know, you're smart enough to admit how tough Ken is. You're certainly not overlooking him, which I think happens a lot in the pro wrestling business.
Absolutely.
And I want to remind everybody again, this is not just a normal match. This is not just a normal cage match. Just like I said when I was interviewing Ken, the word 8-foot high steel cage is a marketing tool. This is going to be an What that material is an 8-foot high chain link fence. Heads get rammed into it, fingers can get broken, careers can change. It's life changing. And with it being in North Carolina where there is no sanctioning body, where there are no rules to follow.
By design.
I never thought of that until you brought up that point.
You've known me 20
Clever
years.
like a fox.
You've known me 20 years. Do I ever not make a calculated move?
Good point. May the 3rd, Sylva, North Carolina. Great card, top to bottom. But this main event, 100% worth the price of admission. If you're not there, there is no way in the world watching it on video later will even do justice to this. This is Bill Hazelwood, the Outlaw Randy Wayne. We'll see you May the 3rd in Sylva, North Carolina.